my name is Jordan, and today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free book review of The Bone Orchard by Sara A. Mueller. This is an adult, sort of sci-fi fantasy mix. I actually discovered this book on Instagram recently. It was kind of a total cover buy. I don't remember who did the post, but I remember them claiming that this was like a fantasy mystery, which is sort of true in the sense that our main character is tasked with finding out who killed the Emperor. But for me, it doesn't really read like a mystery or a thriller. I mean, yeah, she is trying to figure out who killed him, but it's not, it feels more like a sci-fi fantasy character-driven story more than like a whodunit kind of thing. But we follow our main character, Charm. She is actually the Emperor's mistress, but not in like a, oh, we fell in love and decided to be together anyways kind of way. She's actually his captive, so she's not there by choice, and so on his deathbed she is brought to him and he asks her to figure out who murdered him and also to ensure that none of his sons become one of the next emperor, because he doesn't really like any of his sons. Now, you might think, you know, if she's a captor, or if she's captive, being held against her will, why would she do this for him after he's gone? Well, in this world, there are these things called mind locks, which are sort of like these devices on one's temple, and there's actually like wires that like go into people's brains. It basically is like mind control. She has to do whatever he says because of this device. So she has to go on to find out who killed him. She has no choice. She's stuck doing it, but he does say that once she completes this task, she is free. No one else can control her. He is the only one who had like control of her mind lock, so once she completes this task, she will be free. Now, Charm lives at Orchard House. This is where she stays. This is the only place she's ever been. In fact, when she is summoned to see the Emperor on his deathbed, that is the first time she's ever left Orchard House. So she has kind of turned Orchard House into a bit of a brothel slash gambling den, just a place where men, and not just men, but people can come to relax, hang out, play cards, seek women out, whatever. So Charm runs this place. Kitten! No! But Charm isn't, there's a lot more to Charm than just that. Who she was before she became this captive, she was actually like part of, I don't know, I know they said, you know, she's like the daughter of someone important from some other country, and I think that country was like overthrown or something, and she was taken, and that's where she's from. But she's sort of detached herself. So like there's the lady and then there's Charm. The lady is sort of like, or you're led to believe that the lady is like the most purest form. Like they share a body. So like Charm is actually like a separate like piece of the lady's mind, if that makes sense. So she's sort of created Charm almost like this other self to be the Emperor's mistress, you know, so she doesn't have to deal with, you know, the harsh realities of her life. So there's the lady and there's Charm. They're all in one body. A lot of what has happened to the lady is kind of, Charm isn't really aware of all of it. Like she kind of knows and has some memories of them, but for the most part, she's kind of like her own person with her own experiences and memories and thoughts and feelings. So it's really kind of like two people in one body. It's kind of weird, and it's kind of like, honestly, the big mystery to me in this book was figuring out Charm and the lady, and also the bone ghosts, because the bone ghosts are also kind of like Charm, where there are like pieces of the lady's mind that she's like taken from herself, but she's now put them in other bodies that she has created. There's she like grows bodies out of these like bone trees. Like she plants bones in the grounds and then they form, I don't know, it's weird, it's different, it's really unique. So they're called bone ghosts, but once again, they have their own thoughts, their own experiences, their own memories, and they're all separate from each other. But it's like, it's still like pieces of her. So it's like some of them have certain of the lady's memories that she's kind of given to them so that she doesn't have to remember them or deal with them, or certain like aspects of herself. So it's kind of like she's hiding, you know, she's being held captive and she's like taking all of these pieces of herself and pushing them out of her into these other bodies, and so that they can deal with all of basically the harsh realities of this life that she's been thrust into. It's really weird and kind of confusing but unique, and it's just fascinating to read about. That was to me the mystery of this book, was figuring out who Charm and the lady is, who are all these bone ghosts, how are they all connected, are they still technically the same person? It's very interesting. I don't know, and that to me was the mystery of this book, was figuring all that out and just trying to understand what was really going on with them. So yeah, I just found that to be really interesting. I didn't really care too much about like the politics of this book and like the other characters and trying to figure out the emperors and who killed the emperor. To me, the best part of this story was just the lady and Charm and the bone ghosts. Like I said, it's very, like I said, just really interesting. And a lot of times, a lot of the bone ghosts don't like Charm, and Lady herself, when she starts to become more aware of what Charm is up to, Lady doesn't like Charm either, but the reality is Charm is the one keeping them all alive. And that's kind of the reason why they tolerate her, whereas the Lady is kind of like the most pure and innocent, and her worldviews are so black and white, like you are all good or you are all bad, and so like everything that Charm does just like upsets the Lady. And so it's just a really like interesting dynamic, and especially even thinking of or seeing how the other bone ghosts think of Charm and all that she's doing, because Charm does kind of force the bone ghosts to basically whore themselves. I mean, they are the women that are servicing the brothel, you know, and Charm is kind of like their madam. And it's not like she's directly forcing them. I mean, she did kind of like, hey guys, we need to do this. This is beneficial for our survival, sort of thing. And they agreed to it, but I don't know, they still feel like she kind of forced them into it. It's just, this book is definitely not black and white. There's a lot of gray in here. I don't know, it's just really interesting. I was reading other people's thoughts on this book, and it kind of seemed like people were along the same lines as me, and they thought it was like super interesting, very different from any other book they've ever read. And then some people are like, it was boring and I didn't get it, or I didn't understand it, or they just, some people felt like it was a really cool concept. They liked the bone ghost, but they felt like the story didn't go further enough or deep enough or in the direction they wanted. They felt like the ending fell kind of flat, and I see that, because I definitely don't think this is like a 5-star raving book. I do really enjoyed it, and I did think that the author could have taken it to further, like I said, and taken it deeper. Really just like exploring yourself, your mind, and what people do to like protect themselves. It really made me think of like people who have gone through traumatic events and how they'll like block things from their mind where they don't remember anything because they're kind of protecting themselves, so they don't have like a psychotic break and stuff like that. People who are mentally ill. I mean, this was like just really fascinating in that sense for me. Like, I felt like that Sara A. Mueller could have just took this further, darker, deeper, but still, just besides that, I think that this was just so unlike any other book that I've ever read, and I would definitely recommend it and see what you think of it. Yeah, I thought this was really interesting, and I will say though that there is some, I mean, most of the bone ghosts are like basically prostitutes. And one of the bone ghosts is actually stuck in a 14-year-old girl's body, and one of the princes is a horrible man, and he favors this 14-year-old bone ghost because he has a thing for children. And he does horrible things. Nothing is really like vividly described in here. There's no like graphic sex scenes or anything like that, but it's definitely mentioned and talked about, so there's definitely some of that going on here. This is, like I said, an adult book. It has adult stuff in it, so just be aware of that. But I did think that this was a very interesting book, and I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I picked it up because I think I've said it 1,000 times now. I just thought it was so interesting and just so different from anything else that I've ever read. So yeah, well, I will also say, before I end it, that, because I mentioned that it was kind of sci-fi-ish, and I did obviously mention the mind locks, which is more sci-fi-ish. And then, well, you have the lady's laboratory, where she grows the bone ghost, and she talks about these, like, vats that she grows them in, and that all felt very scientific, and she even calls it her laboratory. And, but then there's also, like, psychics in the world, and there's this whole big thing. A lot of people have different kinds of psychic abilities, but there's also a lot of people with these psychic abilities have this tendency to go crazy or go mad, and I think that is kind of why they created the mind locks, is to help control these people with psychic abilities, to prevent them from going crazy, or at least that was the hope. But yeah, so there's other things going on in this world that are also very interesting. That's where some of the sci-fi fantasy elements kind of mix. But yeah, like I said, just really interesting all around, and you guys should definitely check this one out. So let me know in the comments below if you guys have read this book, or if you think it sounds interesting. I definitely enjoyed it, so I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.